Okay, welcome back. So something I also need to be clear on as relates to radon is that not everybody's going to have the information that you have in your hands, and there's still going to be a lot of fear associated with radon as there is with mold and asbestos and carbon monoxide and meth, and the list goes on. Me personally, since I mentioned carbon monoxide, I think that carbon monoxide causes far more deaths and health and safety problems than all these other environmental issues put together, but I guess that's kind of off the subject. So the reality is that we as realtors and as home inspectors need to be up to speed on how to test and how to remediate, and basically how to know what needs to be done and what steps there are as relates to radon identification and detection, blah, blah, blah. So I've already given you some signs for how to detect a house that may be a better candidate for testing. And I should be very clear that those signs don't indicate that the house actually has problems. It just means that it's a better candidate for testing. This is the part where I get some guy that always says, well, you should test every house for radon. And yes, in the perfect world, if we all had an unlimited amount of cash and we were all perfectly safe in every other category of our lives, then it might be a good idea to have everybody test for radon. I'm not going to go down that road. You can just decide, we're all individuals. We all get to decide how we're going to spend our money and what safety looks like to each of us. In this segment, I'm going to talk about how the proper placement or how the proper testing should be done for a radon test. Now, there's a couple of ways to do it. There's basically a machine that can be purchased by a home inspector or somebody of that ilk, and those machines can be placed. They have a nice printout, they have all the things that everybody needs. The problem with those, as I see it, is that those machines can be calibrated basically to produce whatever result the inspector wants. I have seen one of those guys, for example, who, and as you know, the EPA threshold for action is 4 picocuries per liter right now. And so this guy that has one of those machines, he actually put in his literature that the average for this state is 4. And I happen to know that is not true, but I bet his machine actually shows that. And of course, if you're in the radon mitigation business and you want more people to have a radon problem, then you're going to calibrate your machine high so that you can refer more work to yourself or to your cousin or brother-in-law, as the case may be. So, as you can tell, I have a little bit of a problem with those machines. I prefer to have something that cannot be toyed with. And so for me, there's a couple of different ways to do that. You can go to a place called radon.com, and they have a little envelope that just has charcoal in it. You put the charcoal, and we're going to talk about placement here in a minute, but you just put that there in the basement, you send it off, and unless somebody has actually taken that envelope and thrown it outside and now he's sampling exterior air, that will be a method of sampling the radon in the house. Another is you can actually go to Amazon.com and get some radon equipment there as well that, it just can't be adjusted. It just tells you what things are, and that's it. There's no knobs, there's no levers, no dials. It's just there, sitting there, doing what it does. Those, to me, are a little bit more reliable as long as nobody tries to actually cheat the system by moving it somewhere or, that sort of thing. Where to place the test. Now, I had mentioned earlier that your greatest concentrations are going to be in the lowest living space of the house. You want to have those things in the lowest living space. What that means is if there's a crawl space, if there is maybe a root cellar, you're going to get a higher number there because you've got direct access between outdoor soil and this air. So, but that's not living space. And only, Harry Potter is going to be living in a place like that. And Harry Potter is fictional, so I guess we're all good. You want to have that be in the basement. because again, that's the conservative thing to do. You want to assume that people are breathing the worst air in the house. And so it should go there, it should be away from the wall, and it should be away from the floor. So the rule is at least 3 feet away from the wall and at least 3 feet up from the floor. The reason you go 3 is, again, we're assuming maybe that a child is breathing this air. There's going to be more radon at 3 feet than there is at 5.5 feet where I'm breathing. So again, being conservative, we're going to have that canister or the detection equipment down a little lower so that you're going to get the higher reading that might be potentially breathed by perhaps a small child. You want to avoid having that testing equipment be near, for example, a door or a window, especially if it's an exterior door, because those windows and doors can be open and closed, and you're going to be getting drafts, and so you're going to be detecting air that just drafted in, not necessarily the radon in the house. In addition, you're going to be getting, you're going to want to stay away from the furnace and water heater, because you do get some radon that comes in through the natural gas there. So and then you want to keep it away from kids. So you can't just put it maybe on a desk or something, or on the pool table in the middle of the room, because when somebody comes down to play pool, or when the kid comes down and he sees this little envelope, he's going to pick it up and he's going to color on it and tear it up and feed it to the dog, or whatever he's going to do. So as the inspector, you've got to place it away from that sort of thing as well. It can be a little bit of work to find the right spot, and sometimes you can't meet all of those requirements, but you try to meet as many of them as possible. What can screw it up? Yeah, if you've got, for example, if you place it directly beneath a combustion air source, for example, in the furnace room, that combustion air source is going to be bringing air in from the exterior, and so you're going to be sampling exterior air when you do that. So again, we want to be sampling, the kind of air that could be breathed in the basement. Calibration, you want to avoid those. And something else that most of us are not aware of is that EPA recommends 90-day tests. Now, the reality is that I don't know if there has ever been in this state, or pretty much any other, a 90-day test, which is, of course, a 3-month test. They also recommend 6-month tests, because then you're not getting little fluctuations high and low. Something to be aware of is that in the wintertime, when doors and windows stay closed more often, you're going to get a higher reading. So if you test in December, January, you're going to get a higher reading than if you test in June, July, August. And this is why EPA recommends the 90 to 180-day tests. Now, they can recommend all day long, but nobody has time to do that. So, just be aware. And they do mention that short-term tests, which for them are 4 days or less, are often calibrated high or conservatively. If you've heard me use that word before, you can tell that there's a lot of conservatism going on here as far as the assumptions as relates to levels and perceived health and safety effects of radon. Next segment, we're going to talk about what remediation or mitigation looks like and what to expect cost-wise. We'll be right back.